A's, 0. B's, 0. Double B's, 0. Triple B's, 0. And then that happens.
What is that?
That's America's housing market.
Good Ryan.
That is a scene from the hit film The Big Short about how the 2008 financial crisis was mainly triggered by a U.S. housing bubble. The movie is based on the 2010 book of the same name by acclaimed author Michael Lewis. Now, for the very first time, Lewis is telling the story in an audiobook. We're so happy to say Michael Lewis joins us now. Good morning.
Great to be here.
Good to see you. So what was it like to revisit The Big Short for this audiobook? And just tell us what your reaction was to just rereading the words that you had written.
That you wrote,
yeah.
I was just amazed how good the material still was. Really, that was it. It's like, it wasn't, sometimes a book, when it gets old, gets dead on the page.
Yes.
And this did not feel dead on the page, and it didn't feel dead on the page. I realized about halfway into it, because we're still living in the world the financial crisis created. Like, you can draw a line from that event to Donald Trump. You can draw a line from that event to lots of stuff that's going on in the financial sector. And so it was just sort of like, oh, that was the big, I thought of it as the end of a story, sort of the collapse of these firms that I'd written about in my first book, Liar's Poker.
Yep.
It was the beginning of some other story.
And the story continues. Does it surprise you that it's still relevant today? 15 years later, that book came out.
It was
15 years ago it came out, and we're still...
I don't know how much you remember, but there was such anger that it generated this feeling of deep unfairness.
Yeah.
That you have these rich Wall Street people who do all this stuff with money they shouldn't do. Everybody pays a price for it, but them. And they seem to get bailed out.
Right.
And so it's got this weird situation where it's capitalism for everybody but the capitalists. Yeah. And that's when you start to hear people saying that things are rigged. And this anger and the polarization in our politics starts there. The Tea Party and Occupy metastasize into other things.
Only gotten worse, too.
Okay, so, Michael, we have the housing market, the stock market, crypto, we have AI. You throw in politics now that is underlining everything. What do you feel like is the biggest financial threat right now? So,
there is going to be a crash, because there always is. It's very hard to know when. There'll be some kind of crisis.
But it is inevitable.
So the biggest threat to me isn't one of those things. It's, do we have the institutions to deal with it once it happens? So that if you look back, the reason everything could be calmed down 15 years ago is that the Fed was independent and the government was trusted. I mean, the government could function like a parent walking into the room.
So how do you feel about the political pressure
right now
impacting that?
So the idea of a Federal Reserve that's basically an arm of the president and politicized, and we're not managing our finances. It should make you really uneasy that the stock market's doing what it's doing and gold is rocketing. Yeah. So people are getting out of dollars and into gold. Why are they doing that? Because they feel uncomfortable. So and we have a polarized political process. Can you imagine right now Congress coming together and doing anything?
Yeah.
So what I'd worry about is like, oh, something's going to happen.
Right.
Hard to know what it is.
Right.
When it happens, do we have the mechanisms to deal with it?
And what's your answer to that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think maybe right now we do. In 2 years, do we? I just don't know.
So, Michael, you mentioned Liar's Poker. That book came out right around, I started working on Wall Street in 1991. And that book, it's a Big Short. There's always a sense that we're going to learn something. We're going to learn what not to do to prevent what you're suggesting is inevitable. But we haven't really learned anything. So what is that under-the-radar risk that you're worried about?
So we did learn things from the financial crisis.
And but we repeat that. This is a cycle.
But the bank, it's interesting. The banks were the center of the problem, right? The big banks.
Right.
And the big banks have been neutered for the last 15 years. They haven't been able to take a lot of risk, and their capital, they had higher capital requirements. We're just now starting to talk about letting them get back in the game, and I think it's not a very good idea. We sort of the meta lesson we don't learn is that Wall Street is always looking to create risk and hide it. And so it's like, where have they hidden it now is the question, and we're always looking in the wrong place.
Exactly right. That's so salient to the point, and it's scary. Michael Lewis, the book, The Big Short, it's an audiobook now. It's on sale right now.
And Michael's doing the reading.
And Michael's reading the book.